My mom's husband stole my laptop and she didn't believe me. 8 years later, cancer brought us back together and the truth finally came out. I, 28 female, have been estranged from my mother, 52 female, for the past 8 years. My childhood was a mix of happy moments and challenging times. My dad passed away in a car accident when I was just 3, leaving my mom to raise me on her own. I don't have many memories of my dad, just a few fuzzy images and the stories my mom used to tell me. Growing up, it was just me and my mom against the world. We lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment in a bustling city. Mom worked 2 jobs to make ends meet, as a receptionist during the day and waitressing on weekends. Despite her busy schedule, she always made time for me. We had our little traditions, like Sunday morning pancakes and Friday night movie marathons. I was a curious and energetic child, always getting into some mischief or another. I remember once when I was about 7, I decided to redecorate our living room walls with my crayons. Instead of getting angry, Mom just laughed, took a picture, and then we spent the afternoon cleaning it together. That photo still hangs in my apartment today. As I grew older, Mom became not just my parent but my best friend and confidant. We shared everything, from my first crush to my dreams of becoming a marine biologist. She supported me in everything, even when money was tight. I remember how proud she was when I won the science fair in 8th grade with my project on ocean acidification. Things started to change when I was 17. Mom had dated a few times over the years, but nothing serious. Then she met Tom, 45 male, at a work conference. At first, Tom seemed nice enough. He was charming, successful, and seemed to make my mom happy. He would bring her flowers and take us both out to fancy restaurants, experiences we weren't used to with our modest lifestyle. But as their relationship progressed, I started noticing some red flags. Tom would make snide comments about me when my mom wasn't around. He'd criticize my clothes, calling them childish or unflattering. He'd make remarks about my grades, saying things like B's. I guess not everyone can be an achiever. Once, when I mentioned my dream of studying marine biology, he laughed and said, "Wouldn't you rather do something that actually makes money?" These comments hurt, but I tried to brush them off for my mom's sake. She seemed happier than I'd seen her in years, and I didn't want to ruin that. But things got worse as time went on. Tom started joking about how I was lazy and mooching off my mom. He'd make comments about how at my age, he was already working and paying his own way. I tried telling my mom about Tom's behavior, but she brushed it off. She'd say things like, "Oh, that's just Tom's sense of humor, or he's just trying to motivate you." She was so caught up in the excitement of her new relationship that she didn't want to see any flaws in Tom. The situation came to a head when I was 20 and in my second year of college. I was home for summer break and working part-time at a local cafe to save up some money. My dream of studying marine biology had come true. I was attending a prestigious oceanography program on a partial scholarship. But it was expensive, and I was determined to contribute as much as I could to my education. One day, I came home from a long shift at the cafe to find my laptop missing from my room. This wasn't just any laptop, it was a high-end model I had saved up for over a year to buy. It had all my research, papers, and personal files on it. Panic set in as I searched my room, thinking I must have misplaced it. When I couldn't find it, I asked my mom about it. She casually mentioned that Tom had borrowed it to do some work. I was annoyed because he hadn't asked me, but I tried to be understanding. A week went by, and Tom still hadn't returned my laptop. Every time I asked about it, he'd brush me off, saying he'd bring it back soon. Finally, after 10 days, I confronted Tom directly. To my shock, he claimed he had already given it back to me. I knew this wasn't true. I hadn't seen my laptop in over a week. I told my mom what Tom had said, hoping she'd back me up. But to my dismay, she seemed conflicted and ultimately sided with Tom, saying I must have misplaced it after he returned it. I was furious. This wasn't just about the laptop anymore, it was about trust and respect. I insisted on searching Tom's home office, which led to a huge argument. Tom accused me of calling him a liar and thief. My mom yelled at me for being disrespectful to Tom and invading his privacy. In the heat of the moment, I blurted out everything, how Tom had always been awful to me, how he constantly put me down, and how I couldn't understand why my mom was choosing him over her own daughter. The look on my mom's face is something I'll never forget. It was a mix of shock, anger, and something else. Disappointment maybe. She coldly told me that if I couldn't accept Tom as part of our family, maybe I should move out. I was stunned. This was the woman who had always been my rock, my biggest supporter. And now, she was choosing this man she'd known for 3 years over her own daughter. The hurt was indescribable. I packed a bag and went to stay with my best friend Sarah. Sarah and I had been friends since middle school. Her family had always been like a second family to me, and they welcomed me with open arms. Over the next few days, I kept hoping my mom would call to apologize or at least check on me. But I heard nothing from her. Meanwhile, I discovered something that made the situation even worse. A mutual friend who worked at a local electronics store told me they'd seen Tom selling a laptop that matched the description of mine. When I checked my cloud backup, I found that all my files had been wiped clean just a few days after my laptop went missing. I was devastated. Not only had Tom stolen and sold my laptop, but he'd also destroyed years of my work. I told my mom about this, hoping that this concrete evidence would finally make her see the truth. Instead, she accused me of lying to cause drama and turn her against Tom. That was the last straw for me. I realized that the mom I knew and loved was gone, replaced by someone I no longer recognized. I made the difficult decision to cut ties with her. I moved in with Sarah's family permanently and got a second job to support myself through college. Over the next year, my mom made a few half-hearted attempts to contact me. But her messages always came with the condition that I apologize to Tom for accusing him. She never once acknowledged how she had hurt me or considered that I might be telling the truth. Eventually, I went completely no contact. It's been 8 years now. I graduated college with honors, landed a job as a marine biologist at a renowned research institute, and built a life for myself. I'm in a happy relationship with Alex, who I met during a research expedition 3 years ago. I have a strong support system of friends who have become my chosen family. My mom has reached out a few times over the years, usually around holidays or my birthday. But her messages always have an undertone of let's put the past behind us without any real acknowledgement of how she hurt me. Each time, I've chosen not to respond. Last week, I got a call from my aunt, Mom's sister, telling me that my mom was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. She's going to need surgery and chemotherapy. My aunt said Mom really wants to see me and make amends before her treatment starts. Part of me wants to go see her. Despite everything, she's still my mom, and the thought of her being sick scares me. But a bigger part is still angry and hurt. I don't know if I can forgive her for choosing Tom over me and refusing to believe me for all these years. The trust that was broken seems irreparable. Am I the asshole for not wanting to reconcile with my mom even though she's sick? Should I put aside my feelings for her sake? I'm really torn and could use some outside perspective. Update 1. Thank you all for your comments and insights. They really helped me process my feelings and decide what to do. After a lot of contemplation and discussions with Alex and my closest friends, I decided to meet my mom, but on my terms. I reached out to my aunt and told her I was willing to see Mom, but only if it was just the two of us, no Tom. My aunt agreed to arrange it. We decided to meet at a quiet cafe near the hospital where Mom is getting her treatment. I chose this location because it was neutral ground and gave me the option to leave if things got too overwhelming. The day of the meeting, I was a bundle of nerves. Alex drove me to the cafe and waited in the car, ready to pick me up if I needed a quick exit. As I walked into the cafe, memories of my childhood flooded back, times when Mom and I would go for ice cream after my dance recitals or grab hot chocolate on cold winter days. It made my heart ache for the relationship we once had. Seeing my mom after 8 years was surreal. She looked older than I remembered, her once vibrant red hair now streaked with gray. She seemed smaller somehow, more fragile. For a moment, all I wanted to do was hug her like I used to when I was little. But then I reminded myself of why we were estranged, and I steeled myself. As soon as we sat down, Mom launched into how much she had missed me and how she wanted us to be a family again. She talked about her cancer diagnosis and how it made her realize life was too short for grudges. Not once during this initial outpouring did she acknowledge how she had hurt me or apologize for not believing me about Tom. When I pointed this out, she got defensive. I've always loved you, she said, her voice rising slightly. How can you say I hurt you when everything I've ever done was for you? I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Love isn't enough, Mom, I said. Respect and trust are equally important. You chose Tom over me. You refused to believe me when I told you about his behavior. Do you have any idea how much that hurt? Mom's face fell. She tried to justify her actions, saying she had been lonely after Dad died and Tom made her feel loved again. You were almost grown up, she said. You were about to go to college. I thought you'd understand my need for companionship. This really upset me. I reminded her of all the times I had supported her dating over the years, how I had been happy for her when she met Tom initially. But he was cruel to me, Mom, I said, my voice breaking. He belittled me, stole from me, and you took his side every time. The conversation went back and forth like this for a while. It became clear that Mom still didn't fully grasp how deeply she had hurt me. She seemed more concerned with sweeping everything under the rug so we could play happy families again. Towards the end of our meeting, Mom brought up her cancer diagnosis again. She talked about how scared she was and how she didn't want to go through it alone. While I sympathized with her situation, I couldn't help but think about how I had been alone for the past 8 years because of her choices. I told Mom I needed time to process everything and that I'd be in touch when I was ready. She seemed disappointed but didn't push. As I stood up to leave, she reached out and grabbed my hand. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the Mom I used to know, vulnerable, loving, scared. But then I gently pulled my hand away and left. I broke down in tears as soon as I got into the car with Alex. He held me as I cried, not saying anything, just being there for me. When I calmed down, I told him about the meeting. He listened patiently, offering support but not trying to influence my decision. This meeting made me realize that while I care about my mom's well-being, I'm not ready to let her back into my life fully. Her inability to take full responsibility for her actions shows me that nothing has really changed. The hurt and mistrust are still there, like an open wound that hasn't healed. I've decided to maintain limited contact for now. I told my aunt I'd check in occasionally to see how Mom's treatment is progressing, but I'm not rushing into reconciliation. I know some might think I'm being harsh, but I need to protect my own mental and emotional well-being too. For now, I'm focusing on processing this meeting and figuring out what level of relationship, if any, I'm comfortable having with my mom going forward. It's a difficult journey, but I'm grateful for the support of Alex, my friends, and even you, Reddit strangers, who have offered your perspectives and advice. Update 2. It's been about 3 months since my last update. A lot has happened in this time, and I wanted to share it with you all. About a month after our cafe meeting, my mom started her chemotherapy treatments. My aunt kept me updated on her condition. Apparently, the treatments were taking a heavy toll on Mom, both physically and emotionally. She was experiencing severe nausea and fatigue, and had lost a lot of weight. Part of me felt guilty for not being there, but I kept reminding myself of the reasons why I had maintained my distance. Then, about 6 weeks ago, I received a letter from my mom. It was handwritten, several pages long. As I read it, I realized this was different from her previous attempts at communication. The letter started with a detailed apology, not a generic "I'm sorry if I hurt you," but a specific acknowledgement of her actions and the pain they caused me. Mom went into detail about how, over the years, she had come to see Tom's true colors. She wrote about incidents where he had been controlling and manipulative, not just with me but with her as well. She admitted that she had been in denial for a long time, not wanting to admit that she had made a mistake in choosing him. What struck me most was her honesty about her own insecurities and fears. She wrote about how losing Dad had left her feeling vulnerable and afraid of being alone. She confessed that when she met Tom, she had clung to the relationship out of fear, ignoring the red flags and my concerns because she was terrified of being on her own again. The letter ended with a heartfelt apology and a request for a chance to make amends, but with no pressure or expectations from her end. She wrote that she understood if I wasn't ready to forgive her, but that she wanted me to know how deeply sorry she was for everything. I was overwhelmed by the letter. It was everything I had wanted to hear from her for years. I took some time to process my feelings before deciding to reach out to her. We agreed to meet again, this time at her home. When I arrived, I was surprised to see that Tom wasn't there. Mom explained that they had separated a few months ago, shortly after her diagnosis. She said the stress of her illness had brought out the worst in Tom, and she finally saw him for who he truly was. We had a long, emotional conversation. Mom opened up about her fears and insecurities after Dad died, how she had clung to Tom out of fear of being alone. She acknowledged that this fear had led her to make terrible choices, including pushing me away. She told me that losing me had been the biggest regret of her life. For the first time in years, I felt like I was talking to the mom I remembered from my childhood, open, honest, and putting me first. We both cried a lot during this conversation. While it didn't magically fix everything, it felt like a genuine step towards healing our relationship. I've been visiting Mom regularly since then, supporting her through her chemo treatments. We're taking things slowly, rebuilding our trust and relationship bit by bit. There's still a lot of hurt to work through, but I feel cautiously optimistic about our future. This experience has taught me that people can change, but it takes time and genuine effort. I'm glad I stood my ground and didn't rush into reconciliation earlier. It gave Mom the time she needed to really reflect on her actions and make meaningful changes. Update 3. It's been about 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share how things have progressed with my mom. Mom finished her chemotherapy treatments 2 months ago. The doctors are optimistic about her prognosis, which is a huge relief. Throughout her treatment, I've been there to support her, driving her to appointments and helping out around the house. This time together has allowed us to continue rebuilding our relationship. We've had many more deep conversations about our past, present, and future. Mom has consistently shown remorse for her past actions and has been actively working on being a better mother and person. She started seeing a therapist to work through her own issues, which I think has been really beneficial for her personal growth. One particularly significant moment happened about a month ago. Mom asked me to help her go through some old boxes in the attic. As we were sorting through things, we came across my old laptop, the one that had caused our big falling out years ago. Mom broke down crying when she saw it. She admitted that she had found it in Tom's things after they separated, realizing then that I had been telling the truth all along. She had been too ashamed to bring it up earlier. This discovery led to another emotional conversation where Mom apologized again for not believing me. She expressed how much she regretted letting Tom come between us and how she wished she could go back and change everything. It was a painful but cathartic moment for both of us. We're continuing to work on our relationship. There are still moments of tension or awkwardness, but we're both committed to moving forward. Mom has been making efforts to get to know Alex and has been supportive of my career and life choices. She's even shown interest in my work, asking questions about my research and listening attentively when I explain my projects. I've also been setting clear boundaries, which Mom has been respecting. We've agreed to always be honest with each other, even when it's difficult. This open communication has been crucial in rebuilding our trust. Last week, we had a small celebration for Mom's last chemo session. It was just the two of us, sharing a quiet dinner at her place. As we were eating, Mom brought up the idea of us taking a short trip together once she's feeling better. It's something we used to do when I was younger, weekend getaways to the beach or the mountains. The fact that she suggested it shows how far we've come. While our relationship isn't perfect, it's in a much better place than I ever thought possible. There are still moments when old hurts resurface, or when I find myself hesitating to fully trust her. But we're working through these issues together, one day at a time. This experience has taught me that while forgiveness is possible, it requires genuine change and effort from both parties. It's also reminded me of the importance of standing up for oneself and not accepting mistreatment, even from family. I'm grateful for the progress we've made, but I also know that maintaining a healthy relationship will require ongoing work from both of us. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time and appreciating the renewed connection with my mom.